Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast. I'm Rachel Fiori. Welcome to this episode. We're going to talk about why relationships suddenly go bad. Look, there's a million things out there about relationships. I'm sure you follow some incredible people that you have been learning from and listening to regarding relationships and dating and all the things. There's a billion things out there. But here's one thing that I really want you to understand, and I hope you can take as a really valuable takeaway from today's episode. And that is to understand this one very critical thing. Everything inside of you that will make a relationship beautiful and wonderful and good, that is already inside of you. And everything inside of you that will absolutely destroy a relationship, that will sabotage the relationship, everything that will damage and tarnish and poison the relationship and turn it into a toxic one, that is inside of you as well. That is in the form, and that is also the truth in the person you're dating or your partner. So you already carry your programming, your mental programs, your emotional programming, all of your fear-based program. If your fear of abandonment or your fear of this or your wounded inner child is not healed, all of those programs get triggered and activated when you are dating, and especially when you are in a commitment with somebody, right? So we tend to ignore all those little red flags that show up early on in a relationship because we're excited and we're getting attention. And, the sex is great because, of course, we've learned in our society to fuck people after meeting them for 2 seconds. So you're already exchanging all of this energy, and you want somebody to desire you. You want somebody to want you. You want somebody to need you. You're already coming from toxicity. You're already coming from wounding when that's the place you're coming. Oh, I want somebody to want me. Oh, it's sexy. It turns me on when somebody wants me, when somebody's attracted to me, when they call me. It's so exciting. All of that you are dating from the ego versus dating from an elevated perspective of, number one, first and foremost, how much have I gone inside and awakened to every goddamn relationship program that I run that does nothing but poison my relationships? That is number one. It is inside of you. If it's inside of you, it's going to get triggered between you and your partner, between you and the person you started dating. It is only a matter of time before all of our wounds and all of our unhealed shit is 100% going to get triggered. It is going to get activated and come to the surface. Energetically, it can't not. You can only force, suppress things, hide, wear the masks for so long. The mask our fears, put our best foot forward and make ourselves seem so amazing, when really that's not the part that is ever going to destroy your relationship. Think about that. Ooh. The amazing parts of you, the parts of you that are fantastic and wonderful and lovely, those are not the parts of you that destroy a relationship. Think about it. It's the other parts. It's the unhealed parts. It's the parts of us that run powerlessness programs. It's the parts of us that run insecurity programs. It's the parts of us that show toxicity or inequality in a relationship, that somebody feels like they should be the dominant one or the superior one in the relationship, or that you're supposed to do that over there because you're this gender, or some of that fucking bullshit that still goes on. All that crap. We already carry the programs to ruin your next relationship. Either the current one that you are in, you are running those programs, or you break up with this person, you divorce this person, you go to the next relationship, you still take you with you wherever you go. You're still in every single relationship you've ever been in or ever will be in this lifetime. You take you with you in every relationship. You are the common denominator in every relationship you have ever been in and every relationship you ever will be in. That does not mean that you do not have another person who also runs all of their wounds and their programming that destroy and sabotage intimacy, emotional intimacy, and relationships. But you don't get to blame other people. You only have control over you, yourself. Okay. So, because of that, why relationships suddenly go bad is, first of all, it's never sudden. It's not sudden because our programs are always there, even if they haven't yet been activated by the other person. Our programs are always there. You're already running programs when that person didn't text you back right away and you start getting anxiety and questioning, why didn't they text me back right away? Boom, you're running a self-sabotaging program. You're running a relationship sabotaging program. There's so much going on in that very second that you get triggered and activated in. Well, I haven't heard from her. I haven't heard from him. Well, what kind of games are they playing? What does this mean? You're running programs in that moment. You are completely, boom, dropped into unconsciousness. You are not in the any of the ways of oneness. You are not in presence. You are not in patience. You are not in surrender. You are not in the ways that allow you to show up in that relationship or with that person as a powerful and divine being. So relationships don't suddenly go bad. All the things that trigger us, even in the dating phase of, wait a minute, they didn't get back to me about our plans. They asked me to do something on Saturday night. It's Friday. They still haven't gotten back to me. And then you go seek out all this relationship advice. Well, what do you do in this scenario? What do you do in that scenario? What do you do here? And what if he does this? And what if she does that? What do I do? What do I do? And you always want to know, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? That 100% keeps you trapped in your mind and mental programs, in your ego, running the programs of relationship sabotage. No more. What do I do if? What do I do when? How do I say? What do I say? When do I say? No, we got to let all that go. And we have to learn how to grow up, elevate to higher levels of consciousness than that, and no longer relate to one another from those places of egoic programming, from our wounds, from our fears, from our unhealed stuff, from our unhealed inner child. You're an adult. You shouldn't be running child programs. Your inner child shouldn't be triggered and activated anymore. Doing the real work, what I always call the real work, doing the real work on yourself means if I am triggered ever in life, that is a moment for me to self-reflect, increase my level of self-awareness of what has been activated inside of me and why. What wound needs to be seen, needs to be alchemized so that I am not triggered by somebody else like this anymore. Because if you're triggered by somebody on social media, for example, and your inner child shows up and you're suddenly a 12-year-old boy, for example, what the fuck do you think is going to happen when you're dating a woman? If you're showing up in other areas of your life as a 12-year-old little boy, you think you're not going to show up as a 12-year-old little boy in a romantic relationship? And a divine woman doesn't want to fuck a 12-year-old little boy. And guess what, women? Same goes for you. If there is a man who is actually and truly in his divine masculine and you're showing up as an immature little girl, a wounded little girl, and he wants to have sex with you, that says a lot more about him than it does about you. We are really dysfunctional and toxic and unhealthy when it comes to relationships. We are desperate for connection. We are desperate for it to work. And because we often come from desperation programs without even identifying or recognizing that I'm not desperate. You wouldn't think of yourself as desperate, but I want the relationship. That's coming from a desperation. It's coming from a neediness. And those are the programs that need to be addressed every single day or every single time you are triggered, because those absolutely will be magnified and triggered tenfold when you're then dating or in your relationship. You've been in a relationship for a little while now. And then we want to know, we ask questions like, well, where does the passion go? It wasn't passion to begin with. That's not passion. Divine passion isn't there on day one. Oh, what? Egoic, lustful, sexual attraction is not passion. Divine passion comes from an emotional intimacy, an emotional bond that is really deep and loving and pure. Passion arises out of that. So passion comes later. What we call passion in our society is nothing more than an egoic lust and objectification. That I'm sexually attracted because I'm objectifying you. I'm using you to get off. I'm using you to have an orgasm. I'm using you as an object because, oh, I like you, but I really want to fuck you. All that shit's got to go. That's got to go. You want to know why relationships go bad? Because we start them off bad. And yet it's masked by the excitement and feeling exhilarated a little bit here and there and getting sex. And I'm so excited to be fucking somebody again. It's been a little while, whatever it might be. All of that has to go. And we have to learn how to elevate for real and not just talk about it, not just talk about elevating. And I'm conscious and I'm woke. And yet, as soon as you're dating somebody, you meet them and 2 minutes later, you're fucking them. That's not an awakened behavior. It isn't. Sorry. And you are not going to like hearing that. How old are you? You're triggered now? That shows you got work to do on yourself. We don't want our relationships to go bad. Look, nobody wants their relationship to go bad. Nobody wants to fight. Nobody wants it to get nasty. Nobody wants it to be painful. Nobody wants to be hurt in a relationship. And I don't think anybody really wants to be the one who hurts someone else in a relationship either. I think as nasty and horrible as some people can really be in a relationship, how fucking painful, the horrible things they can do to hurt someone else in a relationship, the worst of the worst. I still don't think that that person who's horrible to somebody else, I still don't think they want to be horrible. I don't think they want to harm people. I don't. I think they're really dysfunctional. I think they're extraordinarily unhealed. I will never in my life justify what people do in relationships. I teach the opposite. There's no justification. You don't have a fucking excuse. And yet, that is not pointing the fingers and is not blaming. It is not judgment. It is the divine place in between all of that fucking ego bullshit. So why do relationships suddenly go bad? That's not sudden. You've been carrying, she has been carrying, he has been carrying all of these programs, unhealed stuff, immature, childish stuff, distorted, toxic stuff from the time you were a child. You've been carrying all of that with you this whole time. It just gets triggered and activated. Your programs run and they start taking over when you're in a relationship, when you're dating. So here's the deal. One of the dumbest things that we can possibly do in a relationship is simply get in one and not be doing self-work. Period. End. Why do relationships go bad? Whether it seems suddenly go bad or over a long time, it's deteriorating. Relationships go bad because people don't do the real work on themselves. They get in a relationship and they think, oh, I met the one. Oh, I'm so excited about this person. I think this might be the one. I'm very excited to see where this is going to go. Or maybe it is the one and you decide to make a strong commitment. I don't care if it's formal marriage or not. It means nothing. And women, let me tell you something. With the way things are going in the world, I would 100% advise you, hey, you want to get married? Have a marriage ceremony by all means. Show you are committed. Share the vows. Show the commitment and the love. I think that is sacred. And I think a sacred marriage ceremony can be absolutely magnificent and beautiful. Legally, signing paperwork, binding you to that person, I wouldn't fucking recommend that to anybody right now. I especially wouldn't recommend that to women. Any woman out there right now, hear me? Don't be stupid enough to get fucking legally married right now to a man. Now, I will change that. If you are a lesbian, if you are, by all, marry the woman. Get married. I would absolutely 100% say to homosexuals, to lesbians, get married. I am all for it. But if you are a heterosexual couple, and especially if you're a woman, my advice to you, don't you dare be stupid enough to get married and have you get locked into something that is really fucking hard to get out of once you're in there. Don't you think for a second government incentives to get married, the benefits you get once you're married, is a lure to lock you in? I'm not going to go into depth. I don't have to. Don't fall for the trap. But by all means, you are absolutely in love with one another. Have a sacred marriage ceremony without having to make it legally binding and entrapping you in a scenario that makes it real fucking hard to get out of later, if and when things go sour. You don't have to have, listen, when people say, oh, it's just a piece of paper. No, it isn't. Don't tarnish marriage like that. I am 100% all for a sacred relationship between two people. I think it's one of the sweetest, most beautiful things that we can experience if we are divine in that relationship, if we are elevated enough to honor the other person and show up as the ways of oneness in the relationship. So relationships, learning how to, you want a guide so that your relationship does not go bad? Learn the 20 universal ways of oneness. There is no better guidebook than learning what those 20 ways of oneness are when you can show up in a relationship, number one, as the way of responsibility. What is the way of responsibility, the divine enlightened definition? What is that universal way of oneness consciousness? Way number one, responsibility. What is that way in this moment in time? What is my responsibility in this moment? So let me go back to my example I mentioned earlier. I mentioned, you texted your person you're dating now. They didn't text you back the way that they normally do. They didn't text you back right away. Or maybe it's the next day. They didn't text you back since yesterday. You haven't heard from them. Okay. And you're now a little triggered. Oh no, what does this mean? What is the way of responsibility in this silly little example that I'm sure everybody has been through at least once during dating, right? The way of responsibility in this scenario means, oh, look at this. I'm triggered. I'm triggered in fear. I'm now worried. I'm nervous that they're talking to somebody else, that they don't like me, that they're losing interest. What are your mental programs? What are the emotions coming up? The way of responsibility is, this is stupid. I shouldn't even be reacting this way. Oh, that's not the way of responsibility. The way of responsibility is, holy crap, look at this. I am activated and running programs. I've been triggered and I'm running programs. Okay, what are the programs I'm running? Listen to what my mind is saying about this, because our minds are always crazy and will always sabotage us. So listen to the mental programs. What are the emotional programs? Let's identify the emotions that are really there. Let's go deeper than that. What are my behavioral programs now? How am I showing up? Well, my emotional programs, I'm getting nervous. I have some anxiety over this. Why? Well, because really, if I go deeper and do the real work, I realize that I have a fear of abandonment. I have a fear of rejection. I am trying to avoid feeling hurt by this person. It's going to hurt to be rejected. There's a lot of programs running here, and I could keep going. So that means I'm in powerlessness. That means I'm in insecurity. That means I'm actually activated and running some control program because I can't control this situation, which is why I'm triggered and activated. And I've got all the fears and the anxiety and the nervousness and the oh no's running. You understand? This is the beauty of learning the work that we offer with our coaching programs at Masters of Self University, is in some simple little stupid thing that happens in your day triggers all this shit that shows you how unconscious you actually are. And then the beauty of it is, oh my God, look at all these programs I'm running. Well, this doesn't feel good when I'm running programs. Nobody feels good when they're running all of this shit. Do you understand? Like, it doesn't feel good. So what do we do then? Instead of avoiding, instead of coping, instead of suppressing, instead of denying, instead of distracting, instead of numbing, instead of, oh my God, now I got to reach out to all the other people that I was talking to before and I have to get another date because I don't think this is working. God damn. Instead of doing all the crazy, toxic, dysfunctional, unhealthy shit that we do, we breathe, we learn to identify our programs. We learn to alchemize what's coming up. We get in touch with that inner child and we create alchemy and teach the inner child how to become divinely powerful and grow up and grow out of the programs that just got activated in this scenario. That's what you learn in the work at Masters of Self University. That's what the universal ways of oneness teach you how to do. Because you're an adult now. If your inner child's being activated, you have a lot of healing to do. You're not a child anymore. And you then can't function in the divine playfulness that exists as an adult. When you're still showing up as a child, you're getting triggered in your inner child that's afraid of losing someone or feeling rejection because you still have unhealed shit in there. So you heal your shit. You want to know why relationships go bad? This is precisely why. Because we don't do the work, the real work, the deep work in that silly little trigger that somebody didn't text me back right away. Look at that. I'm triggered by that. I'm going to ignore it and say, it's so stupid. I shouldn't even feel this way. Except that you do. And because you do, we go in and see, why did this get triggered over something silly? No more judging and blaming and shaming how you feel. No more leaving it there to go unhealed. Why? Because it's only going to show up magnified 5 times, 10 times, 50 times worse than that if you keep dating, enter into a relationship. If something as simple as not getting texted back right away triggered you, what the hell do you think is going to happen when you have a legit argument and you're 9 months, 2 years into the relationship? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Do you see this? I want you to understand this, because that's why relationships go bad, because we don't take care of our truth. We are not the way of responsibility, the first way of oneness. Just the first way of oneness. We're not even showing up as that. And there's 20 of them. There's 20 of them. But we don't even show up as the first way. And that is a responsibility to myself. That is to give myself the patience that I deserve, that I've been activated and triggered in this. And I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous. No. Breathe, pause. The way of patience means take a pause. And then I can go deeper and I can surrender to what is. What does that mean? The third way of oneness. Well, I can surrender to the fact that I'm triggered and activated because I have a fear of rejection. I have work to do. I need to see what programs I'm running. What is the truth here? The next way of oneness is the way of truth. So the way of truth allows me, when I'm functioning in this way of enlightened oneness consciousness, enlightenment, the highest level of enlightenment that we can achieve in a lifetime is oneness consciousness. So now I can function because I'm the way of responsibility, the way of patience, the way of surrender. Now I can move to the way of truth with myself. And the truth is, I have an inner child that's, say, 12 years old. And that inner child is really scared of rejection. And I'm running insecurity programs, and I'm running low self-worth programs, and I'm running fear of abandonment programs, and I'm running whatever programs I'm running, because I'm willing to do the work on myself, and I'm willing to go into presence with all of these programs. That's the next way of oneness, the way of presence, with all of these programs, learning how to actually alchemize them so they no longer exist on an energetic level. If they don't exist on an energetic level inside of me anymore, because I've done the real work to alchemize it, that means I don't get triggered anymore if somebody doesn't fucking text me back. No more trigger. No more running all these crazy programs, making me feel like shit, worried, nervous. Bleh. I don't run those programs anymore because they don't exist anymore. That's the real work. People don't do that, generally speaking. And because we don't learn to do that, and we don't take the responsibility, the way of responsibility, first way of oneness, to do this over the little things, then guess what happens when the big things hit in a relationship? We really turn in to weak, powerless, pathetic little children. And we then have no fucking skills, no power, no wisdom. We lack the way of wisdom to say, oh my God, because I'm not doing the real work on myself with all the little triggers. Guess what happens when there's a big trigger in my relationship? I really resort into unconsciousness. I really resort into sabotaging the relationship and my partner. I really resort then to blame, judgment, pointing fingers, denying that I'm responsible for anything. I'm unhappy because of you, blah, blah, blah. The deflection, the defensiveness, all that shit that we suddenly get completely overtaken by in our relationships. And we wonder why our relationships go bad because I'm not doing the fucking work on myself every goddamn day of my life. That's why. And then you think you can show up healthy as a mature adult instead of a child in a romantic relationship. You will fail. You cannot. You cannot be what you haven't yet become. Think about that. You cannot create a healthy, mature relationship if you yourself are not healthy and mature. If you are triggered and activated as a child, if your inner child gets triggered, that's how you're showing up then in a relationship. Do you understand then that your child you is creating and maintaining your romantic relationship? And you want to know why relationships suddenly go bad? They don't suddenly go bad. They were always doomed. Your programs will always tarnish, poison, and damage your relationship when they are still running and they are still unhealed and you are unwilling to heal them and take care of them. So, how do you not do that? You learn the real work. You learn to take the slightest trigger very seriously. That's something about me that needs me to see it, understand it, acknowledge it, love it, alchemize it, grow out of it. That's the real work. No one can do that work for you. You can be guided, you can be taught step by step, but nobody can do it for you. You have to be willing and devoted to do that for yourself. You have to be willing and devoted to learn it, to heal. You have to not just, so many people out there, I want a beautiful relationship. I want to heal. I'm sick and tired of hearing the want. I want. You have to do. You have to become. You have to be the partner that you dream of. In order to become the partner that you dream of, it takes fucking work. And it takes healing a lot of painful things that you've been through. Look, let's get real. Everybody's been hurt. Everybody's heart's been broken. Everybody has had somebody in some way, shape, or form lie or cheat or do something to betray trust in some level to some degree. Everybody's experienced these things. Unfortunately, everybody has, but everybody has, right? Everybody carries the wounds. Everybody carries programming that is really fucking ugly. And you would be embarrassed. You wouldn't want anybody on the planet to know this shit about you. And yet that's what keeps you trapped as a child. That right there is what keeps you trapped in your inner child that will do nothing but damage and destroy your adult relationship, your romantic relationship with another person when you still show up as a wounded little boy or a wounded little girl. You have to say enough is enough to yourself. You have to make that decision. And listen, it's not about, you don't have to know how. You don't have to know what the wounds are. You don't have to know what your program, you don't have to have the skills. You do have to be willing to learn it. There's a difference. I will never fault anybody. How the fuck do you grow up in the world we are in and have a healthy, powerful, create a romantic relationship that is healthy and wonderful and powerful when we have learned nothing in our world but to be anything but that? We've learned to be needy and codependent and immature and selfish and fucking arrogant and entitled. We bring all of this shit into our relationships, especially our romantic relationships. And we wonder why relationships go bad because we're not willing to hold a mirror up and look at our darkness, our ugly, how we cause harm to other people. We cause harm and then we don't want to take fucking any accountability for the harm. Just get over it. Can't you just get over it? I said, I'm sorry. Oh, but the damage you did to that person, they're just supposed to fucking get over it. Do you see what we've been brainwashed to show up as in our relationships? Oh, so I lost my shit. I said I'm sorry. Can't you just forgive me? Are you serious? So you're willing to lie or harm or scream at or yell or fuck up in some way that person, and then you're unwilling to do all the work that it takes to heal the emotional trauma that you caused in another person. You just expect them to fucking get over it and forgive you and move on. Wow. We are so fucking arrogant and entitled and narcissistic in our society. And we wonder why relationships go bad. They go bad because all of the bad that you carry inside of you is causing your relationship to go bad. There's your easy answer. Oh, it doesn't feel good to hear that, does it? And yet it only doesn't feel good to the parts of you that are still unhealed. That's it. To your divine soul, it is singing from the rooftops. Your soul is vibrating like, yes, please, finally heal, so that you can experience the love and the emotional bonding and the emotional intimacy in the lifetime. So you can experience the way of unconditional love that everybody loves to talk about, but they don't know for fucking jack all what it actually means. The way of unconditional love is one of the ways of oneness. And it isn't a feeling, it's not an emotion. Unconditional love is a way of being. It means that I am willing to heal myself so fully so that I am whole, so I don't cause harm to another person in my romantic relationship ever again. It doesn't mean you're never going to make a mistake. It means I'm healing my programs that cause harm to another. That's unconditional love showing up in that way. And that means I'm willing to seek out the help I need to heal all the ugly shit that is still inside of me. I don't care if you've got one crumb left, 1% left. I don't care if you have a shit ton to heal. It doesn't matter how much there is or isn't there. If anything is unhealed inside of you, your responsibility, the first way of oneness, you have the responsibility to heal that. Or how dare you get in a relationship with anybody else ever? Because all you're going to do is dump your unhealed shit onto that person. Energetically, it is impossible not to. It happens by default. So if you are not willing to heal all of your ugly shit that you still have left in there, you are not even the very first way of oneness. So how the fuck could you ever be the 16th way, the way of integrity? How could you be the way of unconditional love, which is number 14? You'll never get there if you can't even be the first way, which is the way of responsibility. And that's, I want to be in a loving, wonderful, amazing relationship. And therefore, I have to become the amazing, loving, wonderful partner that I want to have for myself. And before anybody says, oh, I am that, be careful. Because we have to be willing to grow up and be mature enough to see where we're not those things. If your relationship, if there are aspects of your relationship that are not good, that you wish were different, you better do the fucking work on yourself. Because that's what it takes. That is the first way of oneness. Okay? And it doesn't mean that along the way, this is the beauty about the work that you learn when you learn oneness consciousness and the universal ways of oneness and the coaching that we offer at Masters of Self University. The beautiful thing is along the way, when you learn this work, you learn, for example, to see all the things in yourself that maybe are in your blind spot or that you haven't been able to quite heal yet, that ends up getting triggered and activated, like fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, all the fears that we have. You learn to see them for what they are. You learn how to go in and completely alchemize them. But the beautiful part about it is all of that shame that so many of you carry inside of you, all of that ridiculous shame that prevents you from doing the healing that you need to do on yourself, all of that gets seen and alchemized too. The way of compassion is one of the ways of oneness. The way of harmlessness and gentleness is another way of oneness. And what you learn along the way is energetically how to bring harmlessness and gentleness, how to bring compassion to energetically. This is an energetic, on the energetic level, you learn this. how to bring those different vibrational frequencies, those ways of oneness, to the very pain that you have, to the programs that you have that are ugly. You learn how to bring those ways deep inside of the most painful, ugly aspects that you still have as a part of who you are. And you learn to give yourself the harmlessness and gentleness that you should be giving to your partner. Because you can't give to your partner what you don't first give to yourself. So if you're feeling bad and you're emotionally in a bad mood or in pain or hurt or sad or frustrated or angry, and you're not doing the work on yourself in those moments, that means emotionally you don't have the ability, the skills, or the capacity to then offer that to your partner when your partner is sad or frustrated or in a bad mood or whatever. Do you understand that? That if you can't even do that for yourself, that means you cannot do that for your partner, which means emotionally, you're not showing up as a safe, loving person in the relationship. And when you can't show up like that, the relationship will always go bad over time. Always. It's impossible for it not to. Okay. So when you understand all of that, what is the best thing that you can do? I think the best thing that you can do is get one of our coaching programs, honestly, at Masters of Self University, because this is everything that we teach and guide you through step by step. Get relationship coaching. You can be single and still get relationship coaching. I encourage it. You are so much better prepared for your next relationship when you learn all of this stuff. Okay. Our one-on-one individual coaching program, our 3-month program, and our relationship program are almost identical. Almost identical. Obviously, it is more specifically tailored. There are different things added to the program for relationships, for the relationship one, obviously. But the same principles are there. Learning how to heal all this stuff, that's the same in both programs. But if you're single, don't think that you can't ask and request for relationship coaching. In fact, I encourage it. One of our certified relationship coaches, get a relationship program, even if you're single. If you really would like to have a beautiful, wonderful relationship in this lifetime, but I'm single right now, get the relationship coaching. Just do it, move forward with it. Because you'll learn all the skills that you can then, when you're triggered and you start dating or you date somebody that you really like, and now, something's at stake here because you could lose that, right? That's when we start to get triggered. That's when our fears start to get activated. And you learn the stuff in these coaching programs. You learn the relationship coaching programs. So you find somebody then and you're dating and it's starting to get serious and you're committed. And then you have your kind of first big major conflict. You will know precisely what to do in that conflict. You will know energetically what to do. You'll know how to show up. You'll know what to offer to your partner who did not get the relationship coaching with you, but at that point in time, you would have talked to him or her and let him know, hey, there are a lot of things that I've learned. I did this relationship coaching in order to prepare to receive a beautiful, magnificent person like you coming into my life. And those would be conversations you would have before you commit to that person, by the way. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And if they're not on board with any of that and they're not open and they don't want to hear any of that, well, give me an example. What do you mean? Well, for example, one of the first lessons that I learned, one of the first teaching lessons that we went over, that my coach and I went over, was how to never fight again. Never, ever, ever fight. Never fight again. How to never fight again. And it was the coolest thing that I learned. And that's just something that you share along the way when you're dating and you're starting to, looks like the two of you are really hitting it off. These are the conversations you need to have during the dating phase. Because if they just say, yeah, okay, whatever, I don't care. Oh, that's too soon to talk about that. And it's never too soon to talk about that. Right there, major red flag. What does that tell you about that person you're dating? What that tells you about the person you're dating, they're not willing to look in the mirror. They're not willing to take the steps necessary to never fight again, which means what? They're not willing to take responsibility for themselves or what happens in a relationship. And then you want to keep fucking dating them? Oh, but I really like him. But I really like her. So grow up. That's your inner child. If they're not willing to do Universal way of oneness, number one. Out of 20, there's 20 of them. And they're not even open to hearing about, well, how do you never fight again? Well, when you understand that the only reason why there's a conflict and you're starting to fight is because you're triggered in your unhealed stuff. When you realize that, you do this process, you do this method that you can both learn and we both do with each other to say, hey, we realize there is a conflict. We're triggered, we're activated in our inner child or our unhealed wounds or our fears or our whatevers. If we know that right there, we can then do the process of what's required in that moment. And we can do, and it's a step-by-step process, guys. It's not one thing. Like you learn it in the coaching program. Okay. I don't need to go into it and bore you with it. But you bring that up to the person that you're dating and you're starting to get serious. You think you're going to have a commitment with. And it looks like it's going that way. This is the stuff you talk about in those early stages while you're just still dating before the commitment. Do you understand this? And if that person is like, no, I wouldn't do that, or they're poo-poo it, or they dismiss it, guess what? Get the fuck out now. You want to know why relationships go bad? Because those are the moments that you don't take seriously and say, well, I really like you. I'm going to go heal. I'm going to go process because I was so fucking excited about this person. And yet, when I talked about how to be responsible and loving in our relationship when there's a conflict, they ignored, they dismissed. Dismissive program. It's a parenting style that person was most likely raised with, which shows you some of their fucked up dysfunctional programming shit that is unhealed, that they dismiss it. They don't take that seriously, which means they're not the way of responsibility. Like, oh my God, are you kidding me? A responsible person says, oh my God, there's a thing that you can actually make sure never, ever, you mean never, ever fight again? Never, ever? Like never, ever, ever, ever? Yeah, you just do this process. You learn this process. You do these steps. So when somebody is triggered and activated and it looks like we have a conflict or we might get in a fight, we just do this instead. And not only do we not fight, we actually use that moment to 100% heal and alchemize what got triggered and is trying to create a conflict to begin with. So we heal and elevate together in those moments. And it's amazing and it's beautiful. And if they are like, nah, I'm not really interested in that, what does that tell you? I'm not interested. I'm irresponsible. First of all, immature. Number two, I am unwilling to take responsibility in those moments to make sure we don't fight. And then you keep dating that person, that's on you. You see it? So I hope you understand a deeper understanding of why relationships go bad and how much work we need to do to heal and deprogram all the bullshit that we have been taught over and over and over and over again. And I didn't even mention what fucking Disney and Hollywood and all that brainwashing shit does to distort what relationships are or should be. Like, don't even get me started on that crap. Guys, listen, it takes work and it takes effort. I always say willingness and devotion, and you have to be willing and devoted to your own healing, seeing truth in yourself, seeing where you are wounded and unhealed, and seeing exactly how to heal that within yourself. So you no longer bring that into the relationship, because whatever you have inside of you, you are bringing and offering to another human being. Think about that. All the bad stuff, as well as the good. So if there's still bad stuff in there, why in God's name are you walking around on this planet unhealed? You deserve to be emotionally free. You deserve to feel the divine power that you have inside. You deserve to feel the divine love that you are. Not that I deserve love too. No, you are love. You just aren't tapped into it yet, which is why you don't feel it, which is why relationships go bad. You're an amazing divine being, and you deserve to experience what that feels like spiritually, mentally, emotionally, energetically. But it takes work to do that, to see that, to experience it, to feel it, to achieve it for yourself takes willingness and devotion. So please make sure you like, subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with everybody you know. Get a free consultation at mastersofselfuniversity.com with our relationship coaches, with our they're all certified and trained in all of this work, all the trauma work, all of it. They are highly trained. They are certified. They are amazing coaches at Masters of Self University. So please come get a free consultation. Sign up for coaching, elevate yourself so you never have to have a relationship go bad ever again. Thank you for listening. I'll see y'all in the next episode. Bye for now, everybody.